Just ahead on CTV News.
I'm in Annapolis for the first day of the 2025 Maryland General Assembly session. I'll be talking what to expect in the next 90 days coming up on CTV News.
And Americans visit the Capitol to honor former President Jimmy Carter. Plus,
take a look at this. Driveways plowed, but streets appear to be untouched. I'm Byron Scott. We'll have that story coming up.
Those stories and more on CTV News, starting now.
Good evening. This is CTV News for January 8th. I'm Michaela Newton. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, Maryland's lawmakers met today to open the books on this year's General Assembly session. Mariah Jalad is in Annapolis with the big plans for the next 90 days.
The 2025 Maryland General Assembly is officially in session, and in the words of Senate President Bill Ferguson, cuts are coming. That's because legislators will have to close a $2.7 billion budget gap. That means lawmakers trimming current projects and evaluating if some money could be better spent elsewhere. It could also mean tax increases for Marylanders. All of this is coming while lawmakers are feeling anxious and uncertain about what this incoming Donald Trump administration will mean for the state. Trump has promised to come after current Democratic policy, including the proposed elimination of the Department of Education. But everything this session will be driven by the budget. One hot-button issue is potential cuts to the blueprint for Maryland's future, the state's multi-billion-dollar education reform plan.
Big time, we want to make sure we protect the investments that we made in the blueprint for Maryland's future. Knowing that the Trump administration wants to eliminate the Department of Education, we have to double down on the blueprint for Maryland's future here in Prince George's County to ensure that we have those wraparound resources for those families in need and ensure that teachers continue to get the raises that they deserve. We need our teachers in our classroom, and we can't have them leaving our classroom to go into get other jobs.
Governor Wes Moore has indicated the blueprint could see reforms this session, as school systems have struggled to implement it. Maryland classrooms might also have a total cell phone ban in their future, which has been introduced on the assembly floor by Prince George's County Delegate Adrian Boafo. The county's acting executive, Tara Jackson, has also laid out Prince George's priorities for the legislative session, including investments in healthcare infrastructure in the number of $78 million.
Working with our colleagues and our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, as well as in the Senate, as well as with the governor, to make sure that in Prince George's County, we are able to give consistent resources for our schools, so our public school system, public safety. I know for me personally in District 25, some of the resources that we want to make sure that we maintain are resources for the community college as well as the hospital.
So while the budget will be top of mind for lawmakers, other initiatives will be coming down the pipe. Governor Moore is set to release his proposed budget on January 15th, but that's not typically settled until the last weeks of the session in April. From Annapolis, Mariah Jalad, CTV News.
All right, Mariah, thanks so much for that report. And legislative leaders will also be addressing the cost of energy for Maryland residents as well as prescription drug prices. Well, President Jimmy Carter lies in state at the Capitol for a second day as Americans honor the 39th president's life of service and sacrifice. Carter, who passed away at 100, is remembered for his faith, humanitarian efforts, and a presidency now viewed more favorably by historians. He won the White House as an outsider after Vietnam and Watergate, serving from 1977 to 1981. Economic struggles and a global crisis defined his term and led to his defeat by Ronald Reagan. But Carter's legacy has soared through decades of humanitarian and public service.
His persistence.
The Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. And Jimmy Carter did his very best to live according to the calling of his Lord and Savior. Today, I join all Americans in mourning President Carter and remembering his example.
In the face of illness, President Jimmy Carter brought life-saving medicine. In the face of conflict, he brokered peace. In the face of discrimination, he reminded us that we are all made in the image of God.
Jimmy Carter established a new model for what it means to be a former president and leaves an extraordinary post-presidential legacy. From founding the Carter Center, which has helped advance global human rights and alleviate human suffering, to his public health work in Latin America and Africa.
And Carter's state funeral is set for tomorrow at the Washington National Cathedral, with President Biden delivering a eulogy. Afterward, he'll be laid to rest beside his wife, Rosalind, in their hometown of Plains, Georgia. Well, the cleanup following the recent snowstorm continues. County officials say all major and secondary roads are in great shape, but as Byron Scott reports, some residents feel forgotten.
While many roads in Prince George's County are clear of snow and ice, others are not, like these streets in Woodmore near the intersection of Clearwood Drive and Shady Stone Terrace, and this 2 days after the snowstorm.
That's why I'm working from home, because I don't have whatever the four-wheel drive you needed to get out here, so I'm not going to test it.
To be sure, crews were busy round the clock. And as you can see, workers at the Department of Public Works and Transportation are still busy.
Right now, we have our trucks who are here. They're out servicing Prince George's County. They're out spreading salts, getting our roadways cleared.
DPW&T spokesperson Angela Roussan says the strategy is to hit the main county roads first, but she adds that may leave some areas in need of attention.
So for residents that haven't seen their streets cleared yet, we are working on it. Sometimes we have multiple passes of a community, but we are still in that process of getting our residential roads cleared, and we're almost there.
Residents we spoke with are rolling with the punches. What's it like driving in these conditions?
Wonderful.
We're from New Jersey, so.
We're from New Jersey. We're kind of used to it, but the roads are passable.
So if you could talk to the county officials, what would you say?
Come clean our streets. Come clean our streets. But I'm sure they're doing everything they can. I don't think anybody there is slacking off. It's a lot of work.
Now, all this comes as Prince George's schools are closed for a third day, and trash pickups in the county resumed today. And while crews continue to work on snow and ice from the last storm, another one is about to tip its hat.
But as you can see, our operations are in full swing, and we will continue to be in full swing to make sure that our roads are safe and accessible for residents.
Byron Scott, CTV News.
All right, Byron, thanks so much. And while the Department of Public Works and Transportation is asking for patience, residents can still submit a snow removal request by going to PGC311.com. And as Byron mentioned, Prince George's public schools were closed for a third day, but the doors at 5 schools were open to provide students with emergency meal distribution. This was the line at Fairmont Heights High School in Landover. Several hundred students at this one location received breakfast and lunch.
I mean, families have been without school meals, for a while. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to go out and go into the community and provide the meals. School meals program, very important, especially, during the school year, so students can eat nutritious meals. But when school's not in session, they don't have access to school meals. So here we are providing meals for them.
With just over a week until another potential port strike, negotiations are set to resume. The Workers Union and the U.S. Maritime Alliance have agreed on pay. Now, longshoremen will get a 62% raise over the 6-year contract, but they're still at odds over work rules. Now, with the strike deadline of January 15th, just days before President-elect Trump's inauguration, stakes are high. Meanwhile, President Biden signed into law a bill that transfers the land that includes the old RFK Stadium from the federal government to city control. Now, this is the next step to potentially pave the way for the NFL's Washington Commanders to return to the nation's capital. Now, giving the District of Columbia control of the land could allow the old stadium to be torn down and the site to be redeveloped for any number of things. One of the possibilities is a football stadium and surrounding entertainment options. Playing in Washington is no sure thing, though. The Commanders are also considering other places in the district, Maryland and Virginia, to build a stadium in the coming years. Their lease at Northwest Stadium in Landover runs through 2027. And you're watching CTV News. I'm Michaela Newton. Still to come, attention Metro bus riders. Some new changes are underway starting next week. After the break, find out why and if your route will be affected.
I wish people knew that when you live in a small town like mine, it's much harder to find friends with common interests, especially ones my age. I often feel really alone.
Same here. Seems like every time we finally settle somewhere, I have to pack up and move again. By the time I make a friend, a real friend, I have to say goodbye to them.
I totally get it. I live in a big city, but it can feel just as lonely. It's tough, but it gets easier.
Honestly, I totally get what you're going through. It's nice to know that you feel the same.
You enjoyed my story. I really enjoyed your story as well.
Welcome back. The Prince George's County Police Department is investigating a fatal collision that occurred over the weekend. Last Friday around 8 p.m., officers responded to the 23900 block of Aquasco Road for a collision involving two vehicles. The deceased driver has been identified as 35-year-old Donna Falble. Falble was taken to a hospital where she was later pronounced dead. Now, anyone with information on this case is asked to contact police at 301-731-4422. And changes are coming for Metro bus riders in Prince George's. Starting January 12th, Metro will no longer service 8 P12 bus stops near the Forest Hill Apartments in Oxon Hill. The property owner issued a cease and desist letter forcing Metro to cut stops used for decades. Now, this move impacts about 150 weekday riders, including residents of the Forest Hill Apartments and a nearby senior complex. Now, riders can still catch the bus at alternate stops like Southern Avenue near United Medical Center and Wheeler Road at Vermilion Avenue. Now, Metro says it's working to minimize disruptions for affected passengers. And the Prince George's County Economic Development Corporation has announced the appointment of Ebony Stocks as the interim president and CEO. Stocks has dedicated 11 years of service to the corporation. As executive vice president for the past 6 years, she has been instrumental in driving the corporation's mission and initiatives. Now, it's unknown how long Stocks will hold this position until a new CEO and president is named. And we spoke to former president and CEO David Iannucci on any advice for his future successor and what's currently needed in the county.
The advice I would give to my successor is to speak up strongly on behalf of the business community, to make sure that the business community's voice is heard here in Largo, here in Prince George's County. We need a balance in terms of the businesses that contribute to the revenues of the county, that allow elected officials to pay for schools, to pay for address public safety issues and recreation issues. We need to have a community that feels very confident that they can make investment decisions in Prince George's County. And I would urge my successor and anyone who's listening to understand that we have a wonderful county with amazing resources, but we have to set the right mood and right tone for the business community to feel confident to invest here.
And Iannucci served as the Prince George's Economic Development Corporation president and CEO since 2018. Well, after a recent council member resigned last month, the College Park City Council has decided on a date for the special election to fill his seat. Former council member Stuart Adams' resignation went into effect today as he plans to focus more on his family and day job. Adams represented District 3, which includes Calvert Hills and Old Town neighborhoods. The special election to fill his seat will be held on March 11th, and all candidates have until February 5th to obtain enough signatures to appear on the ballot. Well, a recent poll by Gonzalez Research Media Services Incorporated says a majority of Marylanders support requiring local officials to cooperate with federal efforts to arrest and deport non-citizens in the state who have committed crimes. In Maryland, approximately 76% of people surveyed said they would support it. Now, President-elect Donald Trump has promised to make enforcement of immigration laws, including mass deportations, a priority. Meanwhile, law enforcement fatalities surged in 2024, highlighting the dangers officers face daily. According to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund, 147 officers nationwide died in the line of duty last year, a 25% increase from 2023. Now, gunfire was the leading cause, claiming 52 lives, while traffic-related incidents saw the sharpest rise, up 48%, with 46 deaths. Struck by deaths where officers are hit outside their vehicles more than doubled.
The nation should always pause when they hear about 147 officers killed in the line of duty. It's very important to understand that these are members of our community. They are people that signed up to do a job that they love, that are able to not do this anymore, or not able to do this anymore because they lost their lives in the line of duty. And I think that we owe them a debt of gratitude and a thanks. We owe them a thanks. And I think it's important to pay attention to the officers that are out there. If you happen to get pulled over, pay attention to commands, pay attention to direction, and realize they are not your adversary. They are sworn to do a job, and they are protecting the public. And you, as part of the public, need to be a part of the solution.
Well, Texas reported the highest fatalities with 18 officers lost. The average age of fallen officers was 42, leaving behind families and communities mourning their sacrifices. And so to come on CTV News.
So the weather outside still may be frightful, but you can still take a swing at something new. I'm Bryce Parker. We'll have more coming up on CTV News.
Might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. You may not even know you have it, but you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand. With early diagnosis, you can change the outcome and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
A recent poll shows that Marylanders believe drug companies can reduce the cost of prescription drugs without cutting research funds for new treatments. The poll by Gonzalez Research Media Services Incorporated found that 83% of state residents agree that drug companies can lower costs by spending less on advertising. Now, this comes as health advocates continue to push for the expansion of the state's Prescription Drug Affordability Board's mandate to reduce drug costs for not only those on government health care plans, but for all Marylanders. And a sobering new warning from the U.S. Surgeon General connects alcohol to cancer risks. Dr. Vivek Murthy released a new advisory outlining the link between alcohol consumption and increased cancer risk, calling it the 3rd leading preventable cause of cancer after tobacco and obesity. Alcohol raises the risk for at least 7 types of cancer, including breast, liver, and throat cancers, with about 100,000 cases and 20,000 deaths annually tied to drinking. The Surgeon General is recommending stronger warning labels on alcohol bottles, and health experts say even 1 drink per day can increase your risk for certain cancers. Well, with a new year comes new goals, and saving extra money is at the top of everyone's list. Now, with the potential for more snow and cold weather, Pepco is highlighting ways customers can save energy and money.
So the biggest culprit in everybody's home is your thermostat, right? So you want to try to set it at 68 degrees is what we recommend. Now, depending on your comfort level and your health, every degree you lower it below 68 could save you up to 5% on your energy bill. Now, another problem that will also impact your thermostat is if you have any drafts that come into your home. So try to locate those areas where those drafts comes in. Your biggest issues are your door or your windows. Maybe go out and get some weather stripping and just find where that cold air is coming in and prevent it from coming into your home. Because when it comes in, what's it going to do? It's going to turn your thermostat on, it's going to turn your heat on, and that's going to cause your bill to go up.
And for a full list of ways to save energy and money during this cold stretch, visit pepco.com/ways to save. And when you usually think of golf, an indoor family-friendly outing normally doesn't come to mind. But at the Lab 301 in Bowie, that vision comes to life. CTV's Bryce Parker has more.
I would call this the country club of indoor golf. When you come in here, you immediately feel very comfortable. You don't feel pressured. So the only thing in here to do is to enjoy yourself, watch TV, listen to music, and doing the thing that we like to do best, which is play golf.
Iman Watson was raised in Largo similarly to anyone in the county. He grew up exposed to football and basketball, but it wasn't until his mid-20s where he was introduced to the game that would change his life.
A coworker introduced me to golf. I quickly got the bug because I'm very competitive. And as I got older, found that playing basketball and football just didn't do good on my old bones, so golf was a perfect mix.
Since then, Watson has been playing golf for over 20 years and hopes that the Lab 301 will help bring other Prince Georgians closer to the sport.
You don't see a lot of people who look like me at the golf course. And being able to create a space where the community can come together, learning golf, getting better at their game, getting the data that they need here on the TrackMan was something that I wanted to expose people to, especially our youth.
Prince George's County has been known to produce talented athletes across various sports.
But when it comes to golf, we have yet to break the barrier there. Creating this facility is to bridge that gap. It's to provide access to people who may not have the largest bank accounts to belong to an expensive country club or can travel to distances to kind of access this kind of equipment.
So the Lab 301 completely reimagines golf. I've never been to California, but if I want to play the iconic Pebble Beach, I can right from the comfort of the county.
When you live in a warm climate where you can play golf year-round, you definitely have an advantage because you can be outside. Here in Maryland, where it snows, it gets cold, we're limited. So having this kind of facility here in our county will provide us with year-round training. They can get the same data that the pros get because the pros use the TrackMan to get the data that they need to prepare for the tournaments that they need to go to.
Reporting from Bowie, I'm Bryce Parker, CTV News.
All right, Bryce, thanks so much. And not only does the Lab 301 provide a solution for when there is inclement weather, but if you're pressed for time, the TrackMan technology allows you to play a round of golf in just an hour. All right, well, Simon Buggs is here with our Wednesday sports page.
Well, Michaela, we have some great news today from the gridiron. I can't wait to share it with you. Don't go anywhere, guys, because coming right up, Commanders head coach Dan Quinn touches on the team's upcoming playoff matchup. That story and more in a bit. Be right back.
We grew up together. We believed in something bigger than ourselves. The military took me to one side of the world and her to the other. And even though she was always the strong one, when we caught up years later, I found out she had fallen on some hard times. It was her call to make, but doing it together made all the difference.
When I see homeless vets on my route, I always think to myself, we both swore an oath to protect our way of life, to protect our community. With VA's hotline for homeless vets, I can get them connected with help to get them back on their feet again.
VA's round-the-clock hotline can put veterans who are homeless in touch with the resources and support they earned through their military service. You have the power to help a veteran facing homelessness. Go to va.gov/homeless to print your wallet cards. For veterans who are homeless or on the brink of homelessness, call 877-424-3838.
All right, everybody, it's time for your Wednesday sports page. Well, Commanders fans, the team's regular season is officially in the books as it took down their arch rival Dallas Cowboys this past Sunday, 23-19. The Burgundy and Gold finished the season at 12-5, and they will now shift their focus to their first playoff opponent. Washington will take the field against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the wild card round on Sunday. This will be the Commanders and Buccaneers' second time facing off this season, as Tampa came out on top in the two teams' Week 1 matchup, 37-20. Now, while Bucs players and fans may be feeling confident about the upcoming matchup, this Washington team is different than the one that they faced at the beginning of the year.
what we've learned over these, 17 weeks, this is a resilient group, man. These guys love to fight. They have a real connection. That's like a really powerful thing. You can see how close they are. You see it on the field, off the field. I love what we stand for. The guys have really put the work in, John, in the situation side of things. And so on the end of the games, I think over the last month, that's probably really expressed itself fully from New Orleans, Philadelphia, Atlanta, that there is a poise that goes on for the players into those spaces. And so I'd say that's, something, from week one to now has definitely changed.
Golf is at 8 o'clock. Meantime, the Terps men's basketball team has had a strong start to this season. Maryland is currently 11-4, and a big reason for that is freshman center Derek Queen. Queen has been hooping so far this season, so much so that he was named to the Wooden Award Top 25 watch list. This award recognized the top male and female players of the year. And the Baltimore native has been that as he leads the team in scoring with 16 points per game while shooting a very efficient 56% from the field. Queen also ranks top 10 in the Big Ten in boards per game with 8. He's also second on the team in double-doubles with 5. Queen and the rest of the team will take the court next against UCLA on Friday. And another Terps player made headlines as women's basketball guard Kayleen Smikle has been named the Big Ten Player of the Week. Smikle has played a key role in the Lady Terps being 14-0. This comes after Smikle played well in the team's wins over Michigan State, Rutgers, and Iowa, where she averaged 19 points, 4 boards, and almost 4 steals a game, while shooting 42% from behind the arc during that stretch. The transfer also scored in double digits in 13 straight games this season, as well as 20 or more points in 7 games. Smikle and the rest of the team will face off next against the Juju Watkins-led USC Lady Trojans tonight at 8:30. In other news, congratulations to Ravens QB Lamar Jackson, linebacker Roquan Smith, and strong safety Kyle Hamilton for being named to the 2024 Players All-Pro team. The players who make the list are voted by active NFL players only. The trio all played huge roles in the purple and black, being crowned kings of the AFC North with a record of 12-5. Baltimore tied the Kansas City Chiefs for the most players on the list. Baltimore will return to action against the Pittsburgh Steelers in the wildcard round of the playoffs on Sunday. Good luck, fellas. And wrapping up sports, the Washington Capitals will be taking the ice tonight against the Vancouver Canucks at Capital One Arena. The game begins at 7:30.
All right, Simon, do you agree with Dan Quinn that this team is different than in week one?
Absolutely, Michaela. Like he said, the resiliency. This team has shown multiple instances that they're a resilient bunch. One game I want to point to is the Philadelphia Eagles game, where they committed 5 turnovers and somehow, some way, they were able to pull out the dub. So it should definitely be a good one. This team is definitely different than they were 17 weeks ago. But also, this Bucs team is a very tough team. Their quarterback, Baker Mayfield, he's played at a Pro Bowl level. And also players like Vita Vea, Levante David, Antoine Winfield Jr., Tristan Wirfs, all these guys have playoff experiences. So even though we are a different team, it's still going to be a tough matchup. So we'll see what happens. I think this game will live up to the hype. So I'm excited for it for sure.
Absolutely. Simon, thanks so much.
No problem.
Let's get a look at our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight will be partly cloudy and temps will drop to 16 degrees. Tomorrow will be sunny and windy, but windy. We'll have a high of 28 and a low of 18. Friday will be partly sunny. It's going to be 32 degrees, but expect snow later that night. Saturday, it'll be 35 degrees, but we have a 50% chance of snow before 1 p.m. And for our community calendar, did you struggle to meet your New Year's goals last year? Well, this Saturday, Parks and Rec is hosting a goal-setting workshop. This interactive workshop teaches a better approach to setting specific, achievable, and time-bound goals to help you maintain momentum throughout the year. Each participant will receive a free accountability journal to track their progress, and this event takes place from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Watkins Tennis Bubble. But for more information, contact 301-218-6870. And that's all the time we have for CTV News. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a good night.
Good night, everybody, and stay warm.